Hey guys, so the past week or so I've been musing over semen retention as a whole and just thinking about the journey and looking at, of course, the positives and looking also at the stigma, let's say, semen retention receives from, let's say, the small contingent of the world who are aware of it and, let's say, take an adverse stance to retention. And I'm not here to focus on the negative, but this video is going to serve as maybe a motivator for those who are on the journey. And maybe you're feeling, man, I'm not getting the results that I expected on this journey. And also for those who are maybe wanting to jump on this path and you're a bit apprehensive because maybe in some circles that you've entered with regards to self-improvement, they have taken this stance and say, oh, it's BS, right? There are other ways you can improve yourself. And I'm going to pair this up, look at practicing semen retention, and also, for example, people who take this stance and say, well, guys who practice semen retention, need it to do this because they can't control their lust, or they need to do this because they can't, or they've never had success with women. And so we live in a very sexual time, I think, more now than we ever did, because this content is ubiquitous, right? It's easily accessible to all at the swipe of a finger. And so if a guy is choosing to restrain himself or try to reconfigure his mind and have somewhat a level of control over lust and cut the head of the snake off, I don't see anything wrong with that. Semen retention serves a very good purpose for that. And looking also at somebody who never had success with women, maybe this ties into maybe lust control. They had a distorted view of women because of egregious content that they consumed. And so in order to maybe try to improve themselves and interactions with women, cutting off pernicious content and saying, look, I want to use semen retention to enhance my interactions with females and bed females. I never could do this prior. It helps to create a more authentic interaction somehow with the individual, the opposite sex. You no longer focus solely on the sexual organs, but you might penetrate and actually have more depth in your interactions. So that's a good way to, let's say, recalibrate how we perceive the opposite sex and maybe create more authenticity when interacting. We no longer think with the lower head, but we are more honest in our engagement. And so those two reasons for entering semen retention, let's say people saying, oh, you don't need that. You can use money. You need to improve your charisma or, your fashion sense, level up in the gym. And I'm all for acquiring these things. I'm a believer that, especially as a man, you should be very competent in all facets, financially, spiritually, and physically. But the underlying thing that can help, and it adds, let's say, if you're a character and you want to boost your stats. I used to play a lot of God of War, especially during the pandemic. And you have like items that boost your abilities, right? It boosts like attack, it boosts defense. I'd say retention is that boost, right? That sits under, it would add like, let's say a 10 plus to your charisma. It will add a 20 plus to your quick-wittedness, right? It will add 30 plus to physique because your energy now has tripled and you need to use that somewhere. So the gym is the place to go. And so I'd say as like an overall stat booster, And if you have the purpose of wanting to build a business ground up or get yourself promoted in a corporation, retention can give you the additional drive and willpower to accelerate maybe a bit more than somebody who's not retaining, or somebody who's watching egregious content. We know how we feel, right, when we watch egregious content. Drained, demotivated, sluggish, and that feeling, right? Even just thinking about, like, wow, guilt, all of these things. So I see no disadvantages to jumping on the SR path and experiencing it. It's a good way for us to really hone in on our discipline if we can circumscribe the most potent human impulse. If we can do that, what can we do in other facets of our life? How can we transfer that same discipline into other facets of our life? All of you can attest to, I've transmuted my energy from SR and I've gone to the gym and I've lifted and I've exceeded my previous PR. I've seen comments on previous videos of mine regarding that. That's a plus, right? I have mental clarity. When I'm engaging in conversations with people, words just come to mind. Nanoseconds, I'm able to just flow. The glow that you often get, the magneticism. So we can all attest to these things. We have this aspect of discipline that we see translated now into other areas. This is key. And it's good because in a relationship, or when wanting to enter into a relationship, what I've seen, and I'll tell a quick story here, and I think this could stem from an overconsumption of egregious content. I used to play a lot of futsal here for a team, and we'd get together once a week, we'd train, we'd have our matches. One of the guys there is a friend of mine. He would always have to defer to his girlfriend at the time whether he could make it to the next training session, and his friends and teammates would also chime in and say, well, look, man, this guy, he has to make sure because his girl maybe will allow him or maybe won't allow him to do so. And looking back, and I think, man, why are you... Of course, you have respect for your partner, but he had put this pedestal, so to speak, and I'm of the assumption that it's due to what she has. Her beauty has beguiled him, so much so that he puts her up here and himself down here because she's got box. And he can't say no. He has to defer to his wife or his girlfriend. And you see this in films and series. Oh, Johnny, are you going to come to the game next week? Oh, I have to see what the wife says. I have to see what the wife's doing. Why do you have to defer to the wife to decide what you need to do or what you want to do for yourself? And so SR can clear up and give you more backbone. You say no to a lot more things on SR. You're far more resistant to the female allure. A woman can't beguile you with her beauty and get you to do something when well, I don't really want to do it. How many times have we kind of heard or seen stories, whether that be in like film, series of guys going to the shopping center with their partners just because, it's something I have to do. They feel compelled to do it. And I'd say a lot of these guys are pedestalizing their woman, saying, oh, well, she's got box. If I do this, maybe she'll give me a treat at the end of the day. If I follow along with her her plan, and you see guys sat down there like Zara or H&M or other clothing stores, and just kind of, well, here, you take the bags. And when I look, and this is really what I feel. It's like, man, it's almost like a animal being walked around and just following their owner. When I see guys like that, like, your backbone's been removed. And for me, that's because they perceive, sex as the be all and end all for them in their relationship. In a marriage, I think it's even worse. A man puts his entire end of the week enjoyment on copulating with his wife, and that's like, man. So SR, once you clear up, SR really helps to reconfigure how you view sex. And some of you might be on this journey and think, well, I have not seen the benefits that I would like to see. Some people call it a flat line. And yes, you could say that, but you have to look at maybe your journey. What were you doing prior to jumping on SR? I'd say for the most part, most young boys, once we come of age, once we hit puberty, we are brought into this world of pernicious content, right? From, let's say, 12 up until however. And so there's a lot of reconfiguring that needs to be done. So jumping on SR might not give you the instant results, you see. That's why you might see maybe a period where, nothing's really happening after the first 2 weeks. I don't feel this, this bubbling and kind of bustling energy. Maybe your body's kind of adapting and shedding the old self, still putting the pieces back together, because we spent maybe so much time under this guise of, it's normal to see such content, to consume it. It's normal to get one off multiple times a day, many days of the week. That's normal. And so we're reconfiguring. And so depending on how long you were in that kind of mind frame and in that space, it could impact how long it's going to take for SR to truly work its magic on you. For some, it might not be the case. You might hit maybe 3 days and you're already, you get that boost and continue, and you're motivated to carry on. So I'm trying to be cogent with this. These are some of the thoughts that I've been kind of running through my mind the past week. And so SR, it gives you more backbone, going back to the stories of men who are somewhat, whipped by their partners, because I think they pedestalize what she has to offer and devalue and undersell themselves. So if the wife says, okay, or the partner says, well, you need to do this, clean the house, go this, take the car out for this. Okay, yes. And then maybe in their mind they think, at the end of the night, I'm going to ask her for some cat. Will she dispense a little bit for me? So this could stem from, extensive corn consumption, and then bring that to a relationship. Now you're starved of that because that wasn't the reality that you used to see. In a marriage, it's completely different. In a relationship, it's not going to be like that, right? So you do anything to get that. You crave it. So discipline, right? SR gives you this sexual discipline. You have far more rigidity with regards to the partners that you maybe allow into your sphere. And you're not so much beguiled by the beauty of the woman, the breast and buttocks. Yes, while it's enticing, you might look beyond that and say, well, is there more to offer? Do you have more to bring to the table, as opposed to, instead of just box? Discipline, I think, is extremely crucial to whatever you're going to do. And if you look at sexual indiscipline in recent times, what has sexual indiscipline done to really great men, right? So for those of you saying, well, it's fine, you want to go out and smash as many women as possible, while that might look good on the outside based on societal standards, he's a player, he gets 10 women, monthly, I have a woman on retainer spinning plates. While that, I'd say, looks good, there's a huge downside to that, because athletes and film stars live in that realm. They have an abundance, and I'm sure names come to mind when you think of sexual indiscipline or allegations of such sexual indiscipline, what that can do to the empires of these high status figures, right? Through lack of self-control, or being in a situation where you actually had some self-control, but because that was around you, you know, some allegations stuck to you, and we know how, you know, these things pan out nowadays. In ancient times as well, sexual indiscipline, right? And so there's no downside to having a level of restraint. That could be the difference between a potential allegation, sexual assault, right? This level of restraint versus, you know, not. There's no downside at all. And a final thing I want to touch on as well is the aspect of money. And before, okay, even coming to the aspect of money, of course, you want to have a purpose. And I always tell people, look, attach semen retention to a purpose. If not, you're just going to cycle that back around and end up releasing, and you're, you know, back to square one. So put that towards a purpose. And this purpose could be for a year, 2 years, 3 years. And if that's how long you need to retain in order to achieve that purpose, so be it. If it's a 3 to 6 month spell where you just need to lock in and hone in all your energy and be disciplined in that regard, and use retention as a way to just really focus in on what it is you want to achieve. So, what are your thoughts, guys? Comment below your experiences while on semen retention. How have you used this tool to enhance your lives? I'm intrigued to hear. Some of you have commented on previous videos. It's always good to see how you guys are using it to help facilitate your life for the better. Don't count the days, make the days count. Until next time.